Hey everybody, it's Comic Crack, and I'm filming this again because I'm too damn long-winded, so I'm going to tighten it up. For the first time in a while today, I was able to make it to the comic shop on a Wednesday for new comics, and I read all the comics on a Wednesday. I don't get to do that anymore. It's not that I don't get to do that anymore. I shouldn't put it like that. I just don't do that anymore. It's just not practical for our life right now, and hasn't been for a while, to be able to afford to go every single Wednesday and commit to a bunch of books and commit to a certain amount of money every single week. I just can't do it. Not that I don't miss it, because I really miss it sometimes. So there was a couple of things coming out today that I wanted to get my hands on, so I figured, what the hell, let's make a special trip, go down and pick up some books. The thing that shocked me the most was that this isn't like it's just happened overnight. It's happened now here in Winnipeg for a while. When I was buying the books where I had a subscription going, it was still at a time where the US and Canadian dollar was relatively close. So the cover price, the US cover price, is what we were paying in Canadian dollars. So if it said $3.99 US, we were paying $3.99 Canadian, because the difference was so minimal that most comic shops just said, screw it, we're just going to charge you the US cover price, that's it. That's not the case anymore, and it hasn't been that way for a while. But because I don't buy a lot of new comics anymore, when I do buy new comics, it's usually mixed in with some back issues or a graphic novel or something, so that specific price doesn't jump out at me. But just buying all new comics, it really jumped out at me. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago, I bought Pencilhead by Ted McKeever, number 2 and 3. I found issue number 1 today up in the back issue bins, and when I noticed what it was priced at, I was surprised, because one of the guys downstairs was telling me they didn't order very much, it wasn't very popular. I'd have to special order it if I wanted the final 2 issues, which I did. I told him if you could get those in for me, that would be great, because I'd like to, it's only a 5-part series, so there's 2 more coming out, and I'd like to make sure that I get my hands on them. So I was surprised to see $6 when it was a $3.99 cover price, and because I'm a cynical fuck, I thought that they were trying to recoup some of their losses by jacking up the price a little bit. So I went down and asked him if he could sell it to me for cover price, and he said, sure, but just so you know, $6 isn't far off the cover price. I mean, you know, $4 US translated to Canadian is blah blah blah, and that's when it hit me. It's like, oh shit, so you mean to tell me that a $3.99 book US is approximately $6, it's less than $6, but approximately $6 Canadian, and it really put that into perspective of like, fuck me, I absolutely can't afford to go every single week to get new comics. If a $3.99 book is going to cost me $5.50 or $6 every single time, that's just absolute madness. And it makes me wonder if we're going to see something that used to be on all the comics. It would have the US price and then have a Canadian price, because I don't think our dollars are going to match up again for a while, although who knows, things change all the time. But most of my life, the dollars have been fairly different. We just had that period there where we were very closely matched. I think we were still lower, but it wasn't by very much. So that was a bit of a shocker. It didn't stop me, mind you. So let's talk about the books that I didn't like first. I have Mirror number 1. I was a fan of 8 House. If you've followed my channel, you've heard me talk about it with people like Damien and LaRasa, and just on my own, just talked about the 8 House comic. Most of the stories in 8 House worked for me. There was one particular that didn't, that I thought was kind of horrible. But this Mirror was one that I was really interested in because the art looked so fantastic. So I picked up the first one, and today I picked up issue 2 and 3 to give it a shot. kind of like I did with that From Under Mountains as well. And I have pretty much the same reaction, although this one is a little stronger than From Under Mountains. I liked From Under Mountains a little bit more when it came to storytelling. The art in this is phenomenal, I will say. And specifically, page layout and use of panels and creative use of panels amaze me. And when I came across this page, I posted it on the Twitter. You have this heat coming out of these vents on the ground, and then kind of the heat vapor is being turned into the panels of the page. I loved that, and I love that so much, to kind of showcase both sides warring with each other, using those vapors as that, and those vapors themselves represent this kind of takeover of this castle and turning up the heat and da-da-da. So much information on one page without a single piece of text. I think it's incredible use of a page. I love it. I absolutely love the art in this. The Emerillo story, on the other hand, I just can't. I just can't do. You know, and I'm sorry, and I take part of the blame is on myself, and I realize this. I had the same issue with Pretty Deadly. The way she was telling a story just didn't work for me. I just couldn't. My mind doesn't think in those ways. The way that she's writing, it just doesn't speak to me. I'm a pretty basic black and white, which is kind of why I like the crime fiction and things like that. I think there's a way of speaking that's a little different, and maybe her dialogue, for lack of a better word, or how to explain it, is maybe a little more poetic. And I don't really, that kind of thing just doesn't work for me. I think partially I don't have the patience for it to try to like put the extra work in that way to decipher things. I don't mind putting in work when I'm reading stuff, but this just doesn't, the setup itself and the premise of what I do kind of understand that's going on doesn't really appeal to me either. That's the other thing. So not only is it maybe done in a way that I don't quite get, but it's just when I do start to get some of it, the ideas that are being presented or the story that's being presented isn't really something that appeals to me to begin with, no matter how it would be portrayed. So I'm going to make that the last that I buy. And I really hope this artist, Lim, I'm forgetting the first name, continues on with more books. The art's incredible. It's really, really beautiful. Even if you're at a comic shop, just kind of flip through it and just look at it. Even if you don't buy it, really give it a shot to look at it. It's amazing stuff. The other thing that I bought this week was issue number 1 of Godzilla Oblivion, the IDW, I'm assuming miniseries, since all their Godzilla stuff is. They had issue 2 there as well, and thank God I didn't buy it. So there's the James Stokoe cover. They had the James Stokoe cover for both of them. And I love James Stokoe. I hated this story. I understand that it's Godzilla. I understand that for the most part, if it's a giant monster destroying the city, then what more could you ask for? And I most of the time agree with it. It's just that the surrounding story to bring us into this, I think, is fucking awful. And I'm not crazy about the art, and it's for reasons like this. If you look at that that third panel, that's sure, it's a bit of a wide shot. I wouldn't call that an extreme wide shot by any stretch. Seriously, you couldn't put the fucking faces on the 2 characters that are in that frame? You've got to be shitting me. I honestly couldn't believe that when I turned to that page again. It's another one that I posted on Twitter because I just couldn't believe it. One of them is speaking and he's got no face. You couldn't even put the basics of facial features on there. I really hope that that's some sort of strange printing, strange transferring, some sort of fucking bizarre mistake that I've never seen happen before, because that is some lazy shit. The art itself does nothing for me. The story itself does nothing for me. The premise doesn't catch me in the least. And I realize I'm kind of being a little harsh on it, but I like myself a good Godzilla story. I loved Godzilla in Hell. I loved James Stokoe's Godzilla. I think it was Godzilla Cataclysm that I read recently too, that I really enjoyed that miniseries. I was really excited to see another Godzilla miniseries out, and it's just shit. There's the cover for number 2, which looked great, and that's why I almost picked it up, because that cover looked so amazing. I'm so glad that I didn't. I would highly recommend to just avoid it if you see it. If you're a Godzilla fan, just wait for the next one. I'm sure this one is probably a 6-issue series or something. I'm sure that they'll keep pumping these out if people keep buying them, so just hold off till the next one. So I don't have very much nostalgia when it comes to toys that I had when I was a kid. We had a load of toys, but nothing really sticks in my mind too much as far as, oh, I'd love to see that again, I'd love to get that again, that sort of thing. That said, though, when I heard about this comic months ago now, I got pretty excited about it, because these I do remember, and these I do love, and I think it's a ridiculous enough premise for a comic book that I was all over it. Apparently this is the 3rd time this toy has had a comic, and it's Mad Balls. And I loved these. I had this Screaming Mimi. My brother, I think, had this Hornhead. I think we had a couple more each. I might have had this Skull as well. I think we had 2 or 3 of them each, and they were fantastic. And I think there was a Star Comics series, the one that did this Inhumanoids that I just found recently, that did a Mad Balls comic as well too, that I'd love to find. So not only are they doing the comic, they're redoing the toys. These are the first 3 that are getting released. You can pre-order them at this mondotees.com, and you can pre-order all 3 of them. The other thing that turned me on to this was some of the sample of the art that I was seeing, some of the artists that I was seeing attached to this title. I think it's going to be one of those titles, kind of like what SpongeBob is. One of the things that I love about the SpongeBob comic is that they have some unique artists participating in each issue. So some of the art is kind of out there. Some of it is a little more straight ahead. But they really don't, they're really not worried about taking some chances artistically, and kind of having fun with it. Same thing with Adventure Time, that sort of thing. The amount of artists that they have working on those projects, I think, is impressive. This seems like it's going to be a similar style of comic where you're going to get all sorts of different artists. For example, a guy that goes by the name of Scarecrow Oven with stuff like this. And stuff like that. And then this next gentleman, whose name is Dan Zetwoch, Zettwoch, and this is his stuff here. And here, and I love it. So this one has 3 stories. The first one, I'll show you a bit of the art from the first one. It's probably the most straight ahead of the bunch. They're very basic stories. Again, this Roar Comics company is a subsidiary of Lion Forge Comics, and this Roar Comics is their kind of kids comic imprint for younger readers. So again, another thing that makes it right up my alley. Yeah, I mean, if you knew about these as a kid, if you were a fan of these as a kid, if you're into just some crazy colorful art, I'd say it's a safe gamble that this is going to be a really fun one. I don't know if it's planned to be a mini-series, how long it's planned to go on for. I haven't heard. They might have said, I just didn't pay any attention to it, but even if it does only go 4 or 6 issues, I'm going to be there for all of them, I think. I want to try to keep up with this one, too. Try my best. I'd love to get... I was hoping to find one of the variant covers. This Scarecrow Oven did a variant cover that was, I think it was this skull that took up the whole page, and it was a fantastic looking cover. I'm sure you can find it online if you want to see images of it. But I don't know, I have high hopes for just the creativity that's going to come out of that book, as far as who gives a shit, it's Mad Balls, we're just going to go nuts, here's some crazy art, here's a crazy story, slap it all together, really vivid colors, and I think it'll be fun. One I've been waiting for a while, Velvet number 13. I read it, and it's one of those things that's been such a break between 12 and 13. It took me a little to kind of jump back into it, jump back into the headspace, jump back into where we were in the story, what had happened, where it was going. I'm probably going to sit down and kind of reread the last 3 or 4 issues just to kind of refamiliarize myself with it. Maybe I'll just do this Man Who Stole the World arc again just to kind of start up again. I love this book. I love the art. I'm a real big fan of the story. I think it's a great book. It's right up there for me out of Brubaker's stuff. Really, really love it. And Epting is just a fucking amazing artist. I can't even tell you how much I love his art in this book. This is Aloha Hawaiian Dick, issue number 1. I have the first 2 arcs of this as well, in singles and in full collections here. Oh, hey, look at this thing. Right here where I'm sitting. So, this is Hawaiian Dick, The Last Resort. And then this is Hawaiian Dick. I think this is the first one, yeah. Series 1. Crime drama. This was 2002, 2003. And I love these series. And one of the things that I loved about this series was Stephen Griffin's artwork in it. His kind of the painterly look to it. The character design, everything about it. I just loved. It was a great series as well too. It's kind of like a crime noir-ish kind of thing, but it's PI. He's a PI as well. And yeah, really, really fun book. If you are interested in it, I'm sure you can find these for pretty cheap. Let's take a look at a couple more pages here from the second volume. Really great. So his art really resonated for me, and it's part of what made me love the book so much. So when I saw that there was another guy listed for art duties on this, somebody named Jacob Wyatt, I was a little skeptical, but because I love the story so much, I thought I'd give it a shot anyway. And then I opened it up to this, and honestly, I was disappointed, and I thought, okay, 1972, maybe this is a flashback. As you started reading it, clearly this isn't the flashback, this is where we are. Because when we start to go into the flashback, the art stays very similar, the coloring changes a bit. So I thought, okay, whatever, it's a different artist, just give it a chance. And then literally, that's what I thought, and then literally I turned the page and immediately fell in love with the artist in the span of one page turn. Because I saw that, and it's incredible. I love the use of all the white space with this roadway sidewalk. It looks like a road actually, because the kids are playing on the sidewalk. Love it, absolutely fucking loved it. And from that moment on, the rest of the book, I was in love with this guy's art. I think Christina had said that he'd done some. Pardon me, sorry. He'd done some Marvel Comics work as well, too. I haven't looked him up yet to see what other titles he's done. This page was great, too. This private eye is kind of taking photos of somebody. The guy catches him outside, puts his arms through the window, and pulls him in through the window. I thought, well, that was pretty phenomenal. A fun way to approach it. So So yeah, really good stuff. They had a Kickstarter where they were putting together a hardcover edition of the previous stories and some bonus stories and some extra art and that sort of thing. I don't know if, I think that succeeded. I don't know when it's coming out or when or anything like that. When? Did I say when twice? I'm not sure when it's coming out, but Hawaiian Dick is a good one. And then finally, the one that looks like everybody's been picking up is this Deadly Hands of Criminal. And this is the magazine size. I have the magazine sized edition of the previous Criminal. And the Fade Out, the first issue of the Fade Out, I have the magazine size too. So I figured I'd spend the extra money and just continue with the magazine size. So they did a similar thing for this where they utilized the kind of older Warren Publications type of magazine, 70s magazine. It didn't work for me in this Savage Sword of Criminal. I liked the story enough. It didn't blow me away. I'm a huge fan of Criminal. I think it's Brubaker's, some of Brubaker's best stuff. Same with Sean Phillips too. There's been times in some of the new series where I see what I think is Sean Phillips. I don't know if it's too rushed or what the deal is, or if he's not as polished sometimes. I've seen some art of his in some of the more recent series that I thought was a little lacking. Criminal, I think it was all fantastic. I absolutely love the stories. I know that Criminal isn't one of everybody's favorites who are fans of these two creators, but it's high up on my list. I've got the singles, I've got the hardcover editions, I've got Incognito, I've got Sleeper, I've got a ton of Brubaker stuff and Sean Phillips, but a lot of Brubaker stuff in both formats because I just love it so much, and especially with the single issues, you're getting those articles as opposed to when you buy the collections, they're not including those articles, which I think is all part of the experience of reading his comics. So I went into this one thinking it's this device again. Really, that's too bad. I'm gonna get it anyway. It's the 10th anniversary. I love Criminal. I really want to give it a chance. I'm really glad that I did. It's a great issue. It surprised me, to be honest. It got to a point, because as I was reading it was kind of, okay, this is okay, this is okay. There's a child, there's his father, there's their relationship. They get into this town, and there's no spoilers in this, don't even worry about it. And just kind of the relationships that happen and what goes on in his world and what the world is involved, that he's involved with, it was all just okay, and it hit a point that just completely turned it for me. And there was one page in particular that I'll talk about it some other time probably, where it was just this use of a photograph that caught me by surprise. At the end of the day, I'm a big softie. I'm a big soft pillow, and I thought it was a really touching story. And yes, as I said to DaCosta, I used the word touching. But it's true. Like, it really worked for me. And the end really worked for me. And it's somehow still kept in. They've got this great... The thing with Criminal, it's these really kind of noir crime stories. So you know that things aren't going to go well for the characters. You know that. That's just a given. It's the journey to how that's going to be expressed that's always the surprise. And in this one, I just found that it wasn't overly hitting you over the head with it, I didn't think. It wasn't an, oh my god, that is the most amazing storytelling ever. It was just a really nice unfolding, and I thought it was just such a natural progression of this story that still led to this kind of noirish ending. I was really happy with this book, like, quite a lot. So happy with it that I might actually pick up the issue as well, like the comic-sized issue, because I think maybe somebody who's bought both of them can tell me. Didn't I see when I had a quick flip through the comic issue, wasn't there an article in the back? Because there's no article in the back here, unless I just saw that wrong, because I didn't pay too close attention. But in the quick flip, when I play it back in my mind, I seem to think I saw just a short one-page article in there or something. My camera just shuts itself off after kind of 25 minutes, half an hour, so just so I didn't get cut off in the middle of a sentence. The gist of what I was saying was that if you haven't picked this up, I would suggest picking it up and giving it a read. Is it the most mind-blowing comic I've ever read in my life? Does it take some crazy twists and turns that are just going to twist your head around? No, nothing like that whatsoever. Is it a good, solid story about people and these characters and this world? This one little moment in time? Abso-fucking-lutely it is. I really liked it. I can't stress that enough. I really liked this one a lot. Yeah, I'm so glad that these guys are still doing such quality work. I'm so glad that I discovered them when I did. I'm so glad that they're just knowledgeable about these kind of genres that they're writing in, or that Brubaker is just knowledgeable about these genres that he's writing in, and I wish him all the success in the world, and I'm excited to see what happens with the Criminal movie, if that ever actually comes to pass. I haven't been following any of that information, so I don't know what the status of that sort of thing is, but highly, highly, highly recommended. And like I said, the other one that I would recommend if you just want something fun is this. Like I said, just a really fun book. I think it's going to be a really fun series. It might be a good one if you have kids that are into reading comics. It might be a fun one to read together, because like I said, there's nothing intense about this. There's nothing scary about it. It's just kind of goofy fun. There's no bad language. There's no inappropriate situations or anything like that. Like, great art, fun stories. That's what it's about, I guess. So that's it. Holy shit, that was a Wednesday. I can't believe it. Went to the comic shop, bought new comics, read the comics, did a goddamn video about it. Take that. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. And we'll talk to you.